Previously on Accelerate, we reviewed the 2022 Genesis G70. But today we've got the 2022 Mercedes-Benz AMG GLA45. So you walk into a Benz store and they will sell you something because they make so many products. And it's not like they make one product to compete against the others. They make like 3 or 4 to dominate it. It's crazy. So in Canada here, we have, let's take the other brand, Audi. Audi has 48 total models they sell. That's an S and an RS inclusive. The AMG brand sells 51 total variants. There's 25 versions, but let's talk about versions. So if you get the GLA, you've got the 35 and the 45. That's 2 variants. They sell 51 different AMG products. Just AMG, not even Mercedes-Benz, the non-AMG stuff. That shows you what kind of powerhouse Mercedes-Benz AMG is. And speaking of powerhouse, take a look at this key. This is probably the best key I've ever seen on any German car because the AMG is on the front. You see, when you buy an RS from Audi, the RS is on the back. I like the fact that the AMG is on the front. And the M, yes, it's on the back. This is on the front because when you go to a cafe and you sit down with all your buddies, you put your key down and everybody can see you drive an AMG. But so who does it compete against? Well, it competes against Audi, obviously, and BMW. So check this out. Audi has the RS Q3. BMW has the X2M competition. And out of those 2 brands, one of them doesn't sell in North America and the other one doesn't even exist. So it's got no competition. This is a monopoly all by itself. Yes, there's some other maybe Japanese brands you can compete it against because maybe it's the same size, or maybe it's got the same features inside, but no, this is a class of its own. And yes, there are 3 AMG versions of this car. So they basically dominate the field. So let's take a look at the front end of this Mercedes-Benz GLA45. Yes, it does have this signature round sort of vertical line grille here, nice and big, and of course the Mercedes-Benz emblem's huge. But not only that, they have 2 of them. There's not many brands out there that have 2 logos on the front of their cars. Just in case you forgot, this is a Mercedes-Benz because Mercedes-Benz is the best. You walk into any Mercedes-Benz store and they will tell you that they are the best. So is this car really the best? As far as the front end, I think it is. It's beautiful. I love the way it's designed. They spent a lot of time crafting how this car looks in the front because it looks nice and wide. You actually don't notice this car's not as big as this grille and this front end looks. Now, this doesn't have the additional sort of lower splitter here. You can get a lower splitter as an option. But what is unique though, is you can see this goes right and this is open, and on this side, it is closed. I would have probably liked to see both sides open. It sort of breaks some uniformity in my opinion. I'd like to have this open as well. This one's closed, as you can see, and that one is open. Other than that, they do have the camera on the front and this sort of big, huge bumper cover right there. As far as the LEDs go, these are LED high beams, low beams, and obviously the DRL, and it does have auto high beam. Now, let's get in the engine. Now, there are 3 different engine variants you can get in the AMG GLA. And the first one is the GLA35 AMG, and that one is actually a 2-liter, but it's not handcrafted. The 45 and the 45S is handcrafted. Now, they run on this theory of 1 engine, 1 man, or 1 man, 1 engine. Essentially means that only one dude works on this engine. In this specific case, it's Tobias. Now, this engine is very important because this is the most power you can get out of a 4-cylinder in production. This thing makes 208 horsepower per liter, which is an astronomical number. Yes, it is turbocharged, but still, it is the most power you can get out of a vehicle with a 4-cylinder in today's production. Now, as far as the transmission goes, they're an 8-speed transmission and they're all all-wheel drive. You cannot get a non-all-wheel drive AMG GLA. They're all all-wheel drive. But the interesting part about this transmission is the fact that it has cool upshift. Downshift, yes, it does rev match, but upshift is pretty cool because what it does is it cuts off a piece of the ignition. That way it pops a little bit extra fuel and you hear this. Now, as I mentioned, there's 3 different variants of engine you can get in the GLA AMG. The first one is the 35. The 35 is obviously a 4-cylinder like the other 3. It makes 302 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque and does 0 to 60 in 5.1 seconds. This specific one is, again, handcrafted, and it makes 382 horsepower and 354 pound-feet of torque, which is actually up from the 375 horsepower of the last generation. So that means that this one is quite a bit faster. And then the 45S, which you cannot get in North America, makes like 421 horsepower and like 390 pound-feet of torque or something crazy. And it does 0 to 100 or 0 to 60 miles an hour in like 4.1 seconds, which is like 0.2 seconds faster than this bad boy. Awesome stuff. Now let's get in the side. So moving along the side here, you see it has really short overhangs. It makes it look really sporty and aggressive. I like the way this thing looks. Some people want to say that they want this painted, but I like the fact that it's not painted because it gives it that like sort of strong stance. Now, let's take a look at the wheels. These are 21-inch wheels. You can get 3 different sizes on the GLAs. You can get them in 19s, 20s, and of course, these are 21s, 7 different styles. But what's most important is the brakes behind it. You see, if you get the 35, the GLA 35, you get them in silver. Now, if you get the GLA 45, you get them in a gray color, which means that they're, you know, more aggressive. That's 4 pistons in the front with the gray color. This is red, and this has 6 piston brakes, which means they're really grapply. And we'll show you that on the drive. That is awesome. But something we do here at Accelerate is always show you what sort of inner fender liners they have, because that determines what kind of car this is. This one has plastic, as you can feel in here. That tells you that's not a lot of insulation designed for the front of this car. And that also shows with these windows. These windows are not dual pane insulated. They are actually just single pane, which means it's sort of a sporty car. Now, if I move along here, this does have a turbo badge on the side and 4MATIC Plus. Moving back a little bit more is this mirror. Now, this mirror is folding in. It is heated. And yes, it also does have a camera. But where's the puddle light? It is right here. Look at that thing. It's Mercedes-Benz. But who cares about all that? People buy this GLA for the in and out, the entry, getting in and out. Did you guys notice this illuminated AMG? That is pretty cool. That is something Audi needs to learn. It is not illuminated with Audis. They just have this like sill plate. Illumination is awesome. But forget that. Look at this. Getting in and out. We've had lots of cars on this channel. When I try to get in, my neck can't kink like this. And a lot of people do have neck and shoulder issues where they can't get in and out. This is very easy to get in and out. So I'll show you guys one more time. I just walk up in, sit down, swing my legs up, and I'm in. So, but let's talk about the side of it. The side of it, obviously, if your key's in your pocket, you can walk up, touch the handle, it'll unlock, swipe your hand here, it will lock, and they do that in the back as well. And this sort of size of car, a lot of other brands actually don't have it. Audi included, it's only in the front. Now, I've dogged a few other brands, Kia included, of not having it in the back, even on the more expensive stuff. But this one has it in the back that you can lock and unlock your keys in the, or lock and unlock the car with your key in the back, and that is super important. Now, let's look at the side of this thing though. What does it look like to you? It's like an A-Class, like they jacked it up, and then they put some body kits on it, made it a lot more sportier, and then dropped it down again, because Mercedes-Benz wants you to believe that this is an SUV. It's all over their website. It's like AMG GLA45 or 45 SUV. It's just like one tagline. They want you to believe this is an SUV, not a hot hatch, because it is kind of hot hatch, whatever you want to call it. This is sort of in between because I'm confused. Is it photoshopped? I'm looking at it, kind of looks photoshopped. It's cool looking, but to me, it's sort of a mix. So it's whatever you want to believe, because this thing does have torque vectoring in the back. It's got a transmission that can transfer all the power to the back wheels. You can get 100% of power to these back wheels. That is pretty cool. That is pretty cool. All right, so let's talk about the back of the car. Now, if we talk about the first thing and putting gas in this thing, when I pop it open, it says something right here, and it says rescue card. So I will take my phone out and I will show you what rescue card is. I simply just hit my phone over there, and yes, thank you, Safari. It opens up. This tells you that it is a cross-country vehicle as of 2020. It shows you where all the pieces are, like the airbags, the gas generator, the seatbelt tensioners, all that stuff. That is pretty cool. I've never actually seen that before. So moving along to the actual back end of this GLA, let's talk about the top here. Now this does have a sort of integrated lip spoiler. There is a spoiler you can get that's a lot more aggressive, that makes it look a lot more hot hatchy. This doesn't make it look like a hot hatch, so here's the hot hatch look of it. Now moving down, it does have a third brake light nice and tucked away in there. Moving down below is something I will complain about, and it's the placement of these emblems. Now this is just not designed to be here. We have to move this down and make it look different. It just doesn't look aligned. But what does GLA stand for? So GL in German actually technically stands for an off-road vehicle. And the A, well, it's just the way of the Mercedes-Benz. It is sort of an A class, so it's at the lowest cost point. So that's why they have a GLA, and 45 obviously designates the type of power that it makes. Now, AMG again, I'd probably get rid of that stuff and I'd move it on the bottom if it was me, in my opinion. Now moving along below, you'll see these are LED taillights. And where is the camera hiding? Well, the camera's hiding right here. It actually does pop down, so it stays away from dirt. I kind of like that. A lot of the other brands are just sitting down here. You have to kind of clean it. It gets really dirty in the winter. This is kind of hidden and it's nice and clean. Now it does have the sill plate on the bottom here. I'd like the sill plate to be a little bit wider. The fact that you put stuff in, and I'll show you guys when I get into this power trunk how it works, but let's talk about the exhaust and the bottom piece here. Check out this exhaust. Beautiful quad tipped exhaust, except when you look a little bit further, you'll notice that there's only one coming through. These are just sort of not fakies, but they're visually incorrect. Now, let's go underneath here and pop this up. This is power tailgate. It goes all the way up here. So what do we have going on in this trunk? Well, let's check with measurements first. So as far as depth goes, you've got about 33 or so inches. And as far as width goes, we've got probably around 44, I would look like. 43, pretty close. And entry point, so this is one of the things, well, entry point. If you don't want to take this thing out, how much space do I actually have? And I've got about 31. So there we go, there you have it. And as far as taking this out, it is just lifting this thing up, like most of these sort of smaller subcompact SUVs. This is a nice sort of rigid piece, nice and strong, solid, it's not flimsy. But what I did find really good as well is this piece. Now, I've obviously had a lot of other brands on the channel, and I've been around other brands, and I can tell you this piece here is nice and solid. I would say that other brands use like what I would call maybe 1/2 inch plywood. And this thing is sort of 3/4. It's nice and solid. It's got a good feel. You're not gonna have any of the bowing when you put the weight in here. Does it have a spare tire? No, it does not. It obviously does have a repair kit, a compressor, which is pretty standard at this price point and this sort of size. They're not gonna fit a full tire in here. What is cool though is they give you a first aid kit. That is awesome. A lot of brands are not doing this anymore because of cost cutting. There is a first aid kit. And if you want to hide this first aid kit, you can hide it over here, or you can hide it in this band that they have here. So there you go. You can hide it in one of two spots. Now, as far as seats fold down, it does have a 40-20-40 ratio. And yes, you can put the seat down all by itself. And there goes the rear parcel shelf. All right, so I'm in the back seat of the GLA45. And first thing I notice is the fact it's got two sunroofs, not just a panoramic, it's got a sunroof right here, a nice big glass. This is nice because a lot of guys have the sunroof or the panoramic sunroof, but it ends like right here. And I still have this annoying piece here, but this is like right here. That is nice. That is a really good feature, more exciting than the leather quality and maybe some of the plastic pieces that I'm noticing on this thing. It does have rear air conditioning vents, which is obviously supposed to be normal, but not in all cars, believe it or not. Obviously does have the cup holders on both sides, kind of cool that it has that. But how's my legroom? It is pretty good. Very, very flat floor and very deep floor. That's one thing I know. It's very, like, has a deep floor. It's not, doesn't sit high. If you look at where the sill plate is on the back, I have probably a good 8 inches from the bottom of my feet to where the door opens up, which is a lot of room. So anybody tall could definitely sit here. Long legs, no problem at all. I actually feel like, yeah, like I'm a little guy in this big sort of high car. It's got this holy moly handle on this side and a holy moly handle up here. It does have obviously a black headliner. I do have speakers on the door panel and right behind my head here, which is nice. And these seats do obviously slide forward and backward, and they do recline. But the recline, because it's not the biggest car in the world, is not a huge recline. It's sort of like, first one is like there, and then not the easiest button, I would say, but all the way back is this, so it's decent. I'd probably leave it all the way back all the time. So anyways, not much to see back here except for the fact that it's got one USB-C and a really small pocket, and I can put my legs all the way under the booty of the guy in front of me. Speaking of the guy in front of me, let's go check it out. Okay. Hello, I am in the front seat of the GLA45, and the first thing I will tell you is how wide these doors open up. Now look at me where I'm standing. There is a huge entry point, which is really, really important for somebody looking at something like this. They want to be able to get in and out, as I mentioned before, but it's nice and big. And I always say Mercedes-Benz has, especially the AMG lineup, has the best steering wheels in the game, and not really to maybe use them, but to buy one. When you're sitting in the showroom looking at this vehicle, and you sit inside and you look at the steering wheel, you say, man, I really want to drive this thing. It just makes you feel really good. And not a lot of steering wheels do that. There's a few brands out there that have a really good steering wheel, but this is probably the best in the game. What do you guys think? Comment below, let me know what you guys think about this steering wheel, but not driving it, but wanting to drive it, the feeling to drive it. That's why there's always little touch points with Mercedes-Benz of that feeling, right? That emotion. And the steering wheel does a great job at it. And I'll get into some of the features of this exact steering wheel, but let's talk about the door panel. And the first thing I noticed is obviously the fact that all your seat adjustments are on the door. That's pretty typical Mercedes-Benz. It does have memory seat, and something at this size point doesn't always have memory seat. There are other brands out there for this size that don't have memory seat. Really important to note. This does obviously have folding mirrors, like I mentioned before, automatic electromechanical parking brake, and obviously all the usual stuff. This does have 64 types of ambient lighting, 64 different colors of ambient lighting get throughout the cabin, which obviously looks awesome at night. Here's a quick picture of it. As we move along down here, you will see that they have the HVAC controls. Very simple, very easy to use, nothing complicated. I like the fact they have actual hard buttons you can push that feel very quality-like. Well, obviously this is a Mercedes-Benz, so I expect no different. It does have wireless charging down here. Obviously it does have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It does have these cool little sort of cup holders that can sort of tighten up as you press these little buttons. It does have a voltage output, and it does have probably the nicest upgrade. So if you looked at the last generation, it was really plain and basic in the center console, and they've really stepped up their game. You do have a touchpad where you can just simply write all your stuff in here. Now we have 3 USB-Cs in the car. We have 1 in the front and 2 right hidden in this center glove box, which is actually pretty nice. It's got pretty good support all the way through. It doesn't obviously slide because it's fixed, because it's a wide one, so I kind of understand that. The one odd thing though, it does have this little sort of arm or wrist rest right here. I kind of wish it moved. Now it does have this gear shifter up here, sort of bus driver feeling like. I really don't like the fact. I know Mercedes-Benz is big on this thing. I would have preferred it down here where I can just simply shift into gear down here, because this is totally useless. It doesn't do anything except for just hold my wrist so when I'm on the touchpad here. But forget about all that stuff. Let's dive into this 10.2-inch screen. Now there's 2 of them, one for me in the driver and one for everybody in the middle here. So let's jump into them and let's check it out. Now there are 2 10.25-inch screens. This one, for me, the driver, is not touchscreen. I have to adjust it by my steering wheel, which is awesome, I should say, because it's got multiple sort of styles to use. I have this little sort of sensor that I can slide my fingers left and right, and it'll show you right on this screen. Look how cool this is. So I'm going to focus the first part of the video on this screen, which is the driver screen and not the center screen for everybody else. So let's start at the top, and I simply press the home button. Now the controllers on the left side here control this screen, and the control on the right side controls that screen. Although they have the exact same button, they have 2 home buttons and 2 back buttons and 2 sets and 2 reverses and all that stuff. So let's start at the top here. First of all, look at the quality of this thing. Look at the color and look at the depth and the clarity of this screen. It is awesome. Like, I'm not gonna lie, this is crazy for my eyes to see. So on the left side here, obviously I can control it: assistance, phone, navigation, performance. Let's go with some stuff like AMG performance. So I can simply slide down and push this button in, and it brings up different modes. So, but here's the cool part. I can slide this left and it focuses on this part of the screen. And if I move it right, it focuses on the center. I can slide it up and down. So let's go on the far left and I'll show you. Let's start at the top here, and you see these little gradient buttons here. That basically tells you a few items, like obviously your kilometers, but you can move everything. That's the cool part. It's totally customizable. It's not preset. Now when I scroll down, you see how the kilometer just popped up there. There's the time and date, and then obviously there's a few other data inputs right there: temperature and what radio station I'm listening to, and speed again in a digital format. Now when I slide over here, I'll slide out at the top, and you can see how cool is this. It is so customizable. So every little screen can customize the same thing, but in a different font, as you can see here. If I scroll down, you've got your boost. Pretty cool, and it shows you sort of what setting you are, because it does have obviously 5 different adjustments you can do, and I'll get in that in a second. Scroll down, and again, there is my G-force meter. Pretty awesome. Slide over, I get to the right, and I can start right at the top there. Just different sort of layouts. Pretty cool. Shows you your PSI, your outdoor PSI for your tires, your temperature, your boost, again, your G meter, all the same stuff, but just laid out a bit different, and then your navigation. But this is really, really nice. So anyways, let's get out of there, go back to the home button, and when I slide over now, I can have my trip, my radio, my media, my designs and displays. So let's get in that for a second. You have your classic, sport, super sport, and of course, understated. Check out understated. Wow. Let's get out of this and go back into super sport. Yes, reset values and give me super sport back again. So when we jump into this screen, you will see that the home screen is basically phone, navigation, radio, media, comfort, track pack, let's get out of that, and AMG performance, and then Mercedes Me apps and settings. So let's start on how we can get into each menu. Now I can use my finger because this is a touch screen. Again, not a touch screen, but also in this sort of touchpad here, I can simply just slide my finger right and left, and you can hear this noise. Listen to this thing. Letting me know that I've actually touched it. Or they have hard buttons next to on the right hand side where I can hit navigation or map, get there really fast, radio or media, get there really fast, and of course telephone. So those are your hard buttons on the right side. So there's 3 different ways to get to the same sort of data, which is nice to see. But look at the quality again. I have all these pieces down here, really nice, really fast, really easy. And in each feature, say the iPhone, you sort of have your quick dial. So you can have your recent phone calls, you can have your contacts, sort of all really quick right there in those buttons. You don't have to hit the phone button. You just have to hit these 2 buttons that says contacts there. That is pretty cool that you have sort of a quick jump button right on this main screen. So let's skip through that, navigation, radio, media, and let's go to comfort because it's got something pretty cool. And when I hit comfort, it gives me something called seat kinetics. And what that essentially does is it essentially moves a part of the seat a very small increment every minute or so to sort of just change positions to get my body moving. Instead of a massage seat, this is sort of really interesting because instead of just massaging the same sort of annoying massage that some of these seats give you, it sort of moves. Kind of interesting to know. And then there's ambient lighting. I basically can pick the color, and yes, I can have different color, like multicolor animation, different effects like welcome, climate, and track pace, and then your colors, obviously pretty straightforward stuff. So next up is track pace. That is specifically for the track. Now it probably won't make much sense sitting here in the studio showing this to you guys, but what is cool, you can see different tracks, you can import tracks, you can see different tracks, the time and the distance that it takes you to do the track, and you can actually import it into the car in case you were doing that track. Pretty cool to actually see. You can see drag race where I'll actually set like it does it right now. I just set here, ready, set, go. Come on, give me my ready, set, go. Yes, stop recording, start measurement, right there, ready, 3, 2, 1, and blast off. Pretty cool to have all that stuff. Again, telemetry and options. I can have basically an app set up right in the car. You can have your acoustic feedback. You can actually hide that in the glove box. There's a spot in the glove box for it. You have your statistics and then obviously your ambient lighting. So let's get out of that because I'm not on a track. This is probably a bit more important. You can have is your AMG performance. Kind of cool that they separate it. And here is important to know because this is where all your visuals are. All that stuff that you see is all right there. Your acceleration, your brake. You have all these little incremental measurements you can actually see with your own eyes as opposed to a car doing it for you. You don't really know what's going on. This is a visual, pretty cool to have, and really in depth as you can see here. Moving on from that, you've got Mercedes Me and apps. This basically means that you can remote start your car right here. That's pretty cool. And of course, settings like all other cars. Looked into that a little bit. And we've got quick access. You've got your systems. You've got your traffic sign assist, brake assist, attention assist, which basically tells you to stay awake. Your traffic light view, obviously blind spot indicator. Moving on from that, you've got your vehicle, your acoustic lock. So it tells you when you ding when you lock the car. Automatic folding mirrors, gas station search, and obviously ambient lighting, and a few other nitty-gritties. So the next part is the drive, so let me turn my steering wheel to Sport Plus and let's get this party on the road. So we're going to start this drive portion of it with a launch. So I'm going to simply just turn my rotary knob right to race mode, and I'm gonna press the brake and I'm gonna stomp on the throttle and it's gonna say race start. This is the easiest launch car to start, and you can see this going crazy. Well, it only gives me about 3 seconds to do it, so I'm gonna let go of the gas and then on the brake again, on the throttle, race start, release brake to start, and oh my God. Wow. Oh my God. I want to do that again for good luck. I think the camera shifted like crazy, but it's all good. We'll do it again for good luck. Did you feel how that back end just gripped and like launched me forward? It like I just broke the I feel like the only way to launch this thing is like I got to do one of these to I got to push back hard in my seat. Okay, on the throttle, race start, race to begin. Oh my God, I just want to keep doing that. Oh my God, this launch. It's on the brake. It's just so easy. On the brake, so I'm in drive, in race mode, no pressing stability program, nothing. On the brake, on the throttle, race start. Oh my God. Oh my God. What excites me as well is all these instrument things blasting at me, telling me like that I'm like bouncing off all these rev limiters. And then it shows you that the maximum horsepower and torque that you hit actually stays in red. That is pretty cool. So since I've had this car for 4 days, the most irritating thing I don't like about it is it's got this little whine, and it sounds exactly like a police car in the far background, and it's problematic because this thing is fast, and everywhere I go, I'm like, is that the cop behind me? So I'm constantly looking back. Now I know not to look back because this has this like whine, and it's obviously the turbos that are whining up, but I can hear it, so the only way to avoid that is to be on throttle. All right, so I simply just hit this manual gear button, and now we are in race in manual mode, and let's see how these paddles work. Nice poppity pop. And on the throttle. Oh, if you don't shift in time. I just want to see how it would shift if you don't hit it in time. It's like... That sounds so good. Oh, third gear has always been my favorite gear. Listen to this thing. But maybe this car gives me fourth gear vibes. Man. So in comfort, it's super smooth. Like you'd expect. It does have obviously full adjustable magnetic suspension. Smooth, comfortable. It is a little bit noisier. There's a little bit more cabin noise. Still very good. Not as tight as obviously when you're in race mode, but it's still very good considering that you have a soft ride right now. It's not a hard ride. It is still louder obviously because they're 21s, and there's not a ton of insulation in this thing because they want you to hear the engine. They want you to hear obviously that sound. Man, but it sounds really good. Isn't that one of the best 4-cylinders you've ever heard in your life? That is amazing. Like, that sound is so nice. And when you're cruising around and you don't want to hear the road noise or the tire noise, you have got 12 speakers in this Burmeister sound system. Now, it's got very high highs. I would say there's ton of deep notes to it. And something this small, it's really hard to put a really good subwoofer. It is in the trunk, but it's got really good highs. I would say the best sort of decent mids, not the best bass sort of sound system. Really good for house music, okay for hip hop, probably not good for anything with some low end beats. The other thing I noticed that the engineers did that I really like is I like how they've made this dash really far deep, and I like on the door panels how it goes from skinny to wide, because what that does is makes me feel like the car is bigger than it actually is. And it's got this nice wide sill up top here. A lot of them have skinny sills, or it's the exact same, did I say sill? I mean like ledge here. It's the exact same all the way through, and it's kind of skinny, but this has a pretty wide, hefty door panel. It makes me feel more solid inside. Everything else is pretty nice, pretty straightforward. I like how the vents you can just turn to basically put on, put off. That's how you on, off, pretty straightforward. The only thing, as I said, that I can complain about is the fact I hate the shifter. I like the fact if it's down here, but it's not there, whatever. Can't really complain. Great screens, great clarity. Just happens to know if you like the size. So if this size is for you and you want some adrenaline in your life, then maybe the GLA45 AMG is for you.